It is wall preparation day today, and as you can see, it's another very rainy day here in Vancouver, and that's okay because we don't need good weather for wall prep. When I say wall prep, what we're doing today is we're taking things off the walls. We are moving furniture and art and whatever out of harm's way as best as we can. We are patching up holes and other damage caused by life, and we are washing the walls as well. I find these steps to be crucial in wall preparation because if you apply paint to walls that are in not the best of shape and are dirty, you're going to end up with a really icky finish that you're not going to be happy with, and you're only going to want to repaint, and that's just a big waste of time. For instance, I have pulled the couch out. It's a couple feet away. It's enough room for me to get in behind here. For filming purposes, I will just be showing you the techniques that I'll be applying on this part of the wall because you'll be able to, hopefully, I'll be able to articulate and demonstrate good enough that you can apply this knowledge to any walls that you are going to be preparing for paint. Look at the baseboard here. It's not a baseboard, it's a radiant heat system. This is what we have for heat. It works really well. It's water just pumped through the system, through the walls, and it heats us up nicely in the winter. But look at all the cat hair and other grime. Ugh, it's so gross. It's really embarrassing, but I mean, I do this regularly. I do pull the couch out and do this, but it does build up really quickly. Walls, for instance, they also get a film on them over time. You can dust them, you can keep it up as best as you can, but it is a great idea to wash your walls. I'll be showing you how to do that, just so that when you apply your paint, it sticks and you won't get any little bumpy stuff in your finished coat. So what I've done is I've taken stuff off the walls, like I said, ahead of time. I'm going to show you the masks, so I'll remove that and do all my techniques here. We're in a one-bedroom apartment, so the best that I could do here is put everything that was on the walls onto the dining room table. I'll put some stuff on the couch over here, so this little guy will have to move, unfortunately, and the bed. If you have a storage room, if you have a garage, if you have a closet that's available, I'm trying to find some good lighting here. Whoa, there, that's good lighting, sort of. Is it? Yeah, it's okay. Look, I look like I have an idea, a light bulb over my head. You can put all of your valuable stuff that you really care about out of harm's way. If not, you're just gonna have to work around it. This is the best that I could do. I have a little setup ready in the kitchen to show you how to mix up the drywall compound that we'll be using, and I have some tools over here ready to go for the first step of wall preparation. I'm back and I'm ready to remove all this stuff off the walls, and I'm just going to throw it onto the couch because that's where it's going to have to stay until I need to move it again. So here we go. I'm going to remove the stuff off the walls and put it safely onto the couch. Keep going. Oh, that's really stuck on there. Oh, that's why I put this tacket stuff on there so the frame doesn't move, because I'm a little OCD about certain things. I actually found these frames on the street. They were free. So I picked them up and I painted them and I stuck them on the wall. A lot of these masks were actually gifted to me. Well, actually, 98% of them were. So I didn't buy them all. I'm not that crazy. Just a little bit. So there we go. We have effectively removed artwork off of the walls. And this is also a good time to remove all of your light switch covers and anything else that is not permanently affixed to your walls. Store them somewhere safely so you can find all the bits and screws and all that kind of stuff. Maybe put it in a tight, sealable plastic baggie, or some kind of reusable container of some sort, and put that somewhere where you're going to remember where everything is. That's a good tip for you. Okay, so removing things off of the walls is done, and there's a bunch of nails and all sorts of other things. Can you really see that? I think you can. Maybe I'll move this a little bit closer here. So just a sec. So I've done a little reset here with the lights and the spacing of everything. I hope that this shows well enough what I'm doing. If not, if it doesn't help you, I'm sorry for wasting your time. We're going to begin here. These are some of the tools that you might need just to get this first part done. Or you might not need anything. You're going to have to just adapt to what your needs are. So I have a hammer. You might need a hammer. I have my 5-in-1 tool, which is actually a 16-in-1 tool that I bought. This is a fancy thing. It's pretty cool. It has a lot of things built into it, so you don't have to use an assortment of different tools to do a couple jobs. Here's a screwdriver. I have the appropriate screwdriver needed to remove things such as these wall anchors. These are here because I had a shelf here prior that I moved. I wanted to leave everything on here to show you how I removed them and how I'm going to fix these rather large holes. I have my putty knife that I'll be using for applying the drywall compound to repair the holes. I don't actually need this right now because I'll be mixing it up in the kitchen and I'm getting ahead of myself, but you can actually use this tool. If you have a stainless steel one, even better, or other metal, aluminum, they make them in all sorts of metals. You can use this tool before you come in with your drywall compound to scrape off things like little bumps on the wall. So you might have bumps from a paint job you did prior or somebody else did. I do. I have a whole bunch of little things that I'll be chiseling off the wall as I go along. So that's a fun tip for you. So there we go. So I'm actually not going to be using any of these other tools aside from the screwdriver. I'll be using this all-in-one thing that you can find at any home build it center. Another thing that you might not need to use for this first technique that I'm doing to prepare the walls is a pen. So what I did that might be helpful to you is I've moved furniture in new locations. I've hung artwork exactly where I wanted it. So the way that you saw the masks, I'm going to be putting back exactly the same way after I finish painting. So I don't want to go through all the aggravation of using levels and spatially planning out all that stuff again. I'm going to take this pen and I'm going to make it useful first. I'm going to mark all the holes, all the nail and tack marks. I'm going to circle them so that I know not to cover up with the drywall compound these holes. So I'm just going to repair all the other holes, but not the holes that I'll be rehanging the artwork back on, because I don't want to paint and then, you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I can see myself completely destroying the walls after finishing painting, hanging back all the artwork. And I don't want to do that. So this is a tip that you can use if you like. I haven't heard anybody really talk about this before, so it's kind of cool. This is what I do, and it seems to work for me. So if this works for you, really, really cool. If not, try to just disregard and not look at the holes I'm not filling, because it might not make sense. But I will be repairing all the other holes. So here we go. I'm going to just circle everything here so that I remember, or try to remember, not to fill these holes. Creating so much mess. I'm going to go around here and continue this, and then I'll continue the filming. Okay, well that was quick. I have done my own personal thing here and circled all the things that I want to keep. And you can do that if you want. Again, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And now I have my fancy tool, my 16-in-1 tool that I'm going to start removing all the nails and tacks and stuff, but I can probably do that without using it too. This is just another option for you if you need to use it, if it's really stuck in the wall, for instance. Go ahead and use whatever tool you need to use to remove all of the little accessories here, these little bits and pieces to hang your artwork. So I'm just removing everything, not using any tools except for me. I'm a big tool, and that's what I'm using to do this. A tool in a good way, not a tool in a bad way. Okay, almost done. Okay. Great. So all of this stuff came off without even needing a tool. So again, you might need to use a tool to do that, or you might be super strong and just rip it out yourself. It's fine. You're going to repair the walls. Nothing has to be expertly done with tools if it's not needed. So everything's circled. The hanger things have been removed. Now I've got a bigger job, so I will be using a screwdriver. This is very necessary. I need to remove these wall anchors that the shelves were hung by. This is going to be quite a mess when I remove it. So get the appropriate screwdriver you need if you have wall anchors in your wall, and we're going to remove that. Look at this. This is making such a mess. It's just adding to all the cat hair and other grime that is on these baseboard heaters. So look at that. Look at this hole. That's a big hole. That's awful. What a disaster. What have I done? What have I done? Destroy these walls. That's why I just constantly moving things around, and that's changed. So I've moved things where I want. I'm not going to be making such a mess this next go around. I say that now. No promises. Absolutely not. So I'm removing all these horrible wall anchors that are also very crucial. Like you need to use wall anchors if you're hanging heavy items. This is above, the shelf was above the couch, so if we were sitting there and it fell off the wall and hit us in the head, we would be severely injured. So always be safe when hanging stuff as well. Even if you are damaging the walls heavily, you might not move things around as often as I do, so you might be good to go for hanging something there for quite some time. Yeah. There we go. So those are done. Again, if you have little bits of things that you want to remove off the wall, I can see all kinds of things. This is a good thing to do ahead of time as well. Just go over. You know what? I don't know why I'm using this plastic thing. I have this fancy tool here. I really need to start using, otherwise I bought a useless thing. So just go over the areas that are blatantly sticking out from the wall, and you just want to make it flush. Oh, just got that. Be careful, wear goggles or something, because things will fly at your face when you're doing this. So be safe. Don't be like me and not prepare for disaster. So there we go. Just being super careful. La la la. So I've done this well enough for this area that I can show you the next step, which is using the end of this tool, this 16-in-1 tool. Now, if you don't have one of these, well, that's not the end of the world. That's perfectly fine. You can use an assortment of different things to get this same job done. All we're going to be doing is, you can't really see it, but every time you hammer something into the wall or screw something into the wall or whatever, however you're attaching things or however you're damaging the walls, the drywall, it's a funny thing. It pops back out. So it actually, it leaves quite a, like what I just did was scrape off a lot of the protrusion. But when we go to fill with the drywall compound, we want to make sure that everything is pushed back into the wall as best as we can, so that when we go over with the drywall compound and we load up our little cheap putty brush, putty stick, putty knife. It's a putty knife. You load up the drywall compound, and we're going to put it over the holes like this. If you didn't lightly mash those holes back into the wall just a little bit, I'm not really applying too much pressure. It might look like I am. I'm just awkward, so it looks like I am. That's good enough. So it makes a bit more of a mess. It seems like you're damaging the walls a lot more. But if we didn't do this, we would just be applying the drywall compound over, and it would create a mound. So it would be this protrusion from the wall, and you know you're gonna go sand over it with a wet sponge after, but it's not gonna be flush with the wall. But this is the one that I was working on. This will be flush with the wall, and you won't see it. I hope that you won't see it. I'm pretty confident that you won't. I've done this before. I just haven't done it live. Like, I haven't filmed it before. So there we go. We're just gonna go around with either our hammer end. You can do it with a hammer end. Just lightly mashing that large hole back into the wall. And not just for these big holes. You can do this with all of the holes. So even these little tack marks, I'm gonna use this tool because this is what it's made for. This is great. So there we go. Is there another one you can see? This one? Yeah. The littlest things. This is gonna make such a difference in your finished application of paint. You'll step back and you will not see this damage. You'll just see nice, smooth, freshly painted walls. So there we go. Just continuing with this technique. So, I'm doing the ones that I've circled. I'm not filling these holes. I'm gonna try to remember not to. It's okay that I'm doing that though, because it'll just make the hole stronger for when I push the nails back into the wall. I'm not too worried about that. I don't really know what I'm doing right now because I'm filming it. I'm just talking away. But yeah, just if you're doing it, just do them all if that's what you're gonna do and you're gonna hang something different back up here. This is just what I'm doing because I don't want to destroy the walls after. So there you go. That's the trick. You just mash the holes that you're covering back up back into the wall with the end of your tool. You can use any tool you like. So now that we've done this, we're gonna go into the kitchen and I'm gonna show you how to mix up that drywall compound. Hi, so I'm back in our tiny closet kitchen and I'm ready to mix up our drywall compound. I also wanna show you a few of the other tools, aside from those other tools I showed you to get started on the wall prep, that you may need to mix up your drywall compound and for washing the walls. So if you don't want to mix your own drywall compound, you can buy the pre-made stuff at any home build it center or paint store. The reason why I'm not choosing to do this this go around is because of flashing. Flashing isn't cool. What I mean by flashing in this regard when it comes to painting is that when you apply the pre-made drywall compound, you put it on the wall, it dries, you have to prime it. If you don't prime it, you get this shiny thing that pops through the finished coat of the paint, and I want to avoid that. That's what flashing is, and I've been told by a number of professionals that if I mix up my own drywall or sheetrock compound, you can get this at any home build it center as well, this prevents flashing. You don't, apparently, have to prime it. So that saves me a step, And it's also nice because every time I open this thing, like when it's brand new, I use it the first time, this stuff dries out. It dries out so quickly, and it doesn't, it gets all gross. This stuff is pink and it dries white. I'm kind of done with this. I'm going to give this a shot this go around. I really hope it works. I really don't want to waste my time doing this, but I'll let you know how it goes. I'll be honest with you. If I see, flashing popping through, I'll let you know. I hope that this works really, really well. Anyway, enough about that. If you want to use the pre-made stuff, go ahead and do that. That's really cool too. Just be sure to use a primer, like a latex or acrylic based primer, whatever suits the type of paint that you're applying over top of the primer that you're painting the walls with. Just prime it so that it stops that shininess from popping through your finished coat of paint. And then I have my stainless steel bowl here that I use, that I will be using to wash the walls with. I've already squirted just the tiniest amount of dish soap because dish soap cuts grease. And when I'm washing the walls, there will be a little bit of residue of grease because this is a one-bedroom place. The kitchen doesn't have a fan or anything in it, so the place steams up all the time, and the grease will stick to the walls and the dust will stick to the grease, and that's why we're washing the walls. I'll put some lukewarm water in here closer to when I wash the walls, so when I dip my bare hands in here, I'm not startled by cold water. So there we go, and then we'll just wash the walls after. But I will be using this rag as well to I'll show you when I get back over to the wall, just to brush over and remove any other debris from the wall before I put the drywall compound on. Here I have a sanding sponge, so this I'll be using later as well. When the drywall compound dries, I'll just wet this a little bit. It is a wet sanding sponge, and I'll be going over the wall where the drywall compound is, and I'll just sand, give it a really, really light. This is a finishing type of a grit, so you can use anywhere between 150 to 220. You don't want to use the abrasive sanding paper or sanding sponge, because you don't want to rip the coat off the wall. It's the compound when it's dry is very soft, and you just have to be very gentle with it. Just a little sandy, and that'll be good enough. And then we'll wash the walls. Here's a measuring cup. This ratio for the drywall compound is 3:1. So it says 3 parts compound to 1 part water. So no matter how much you mix, I won't be mixing that much. I'll be mixing more than what I need for this little area, but I'm going to be running around the apartment and doing the rest of the wall repair as I go. So I'm gonna do 3 scoops of this, and I'm gonna use this can that I found in our recycling bin because I don't have what's called a hock. A hock is a aluminum board of metal with a handle on it that professional drywallers and painters and tradespeople will be using to mix their drywall compound on. It's a big spread area. They'll mix it and then they'll use their trowels and whatnot and put it on the walls. I don't have any of that stuff. I looked it up. It's like $40. I don't need it. So I'm just going to be using this tin to contain the drywall compound that I'll be mixing. And I have this stainless steel spoon. That's what I'll use to mix it up. We're just using what we have. If you have professional stuff, that's cool. Go ahead and use it. So here we go. I'm going to open up my drywall compound, which I opened up earlier because I wanted to see what color it was. It's white. There we go. And I'm going to be 3:1. 1, 2, 3. Ugh. I did read the package of this, and it's kind of scary. It says it's cancer causing if you inhale a lot of it. I'm sure it's okay. I read the back of this as well, the premix stuff, and it says the same thing. So just be careful. Maybe wear a mask or something. I've never done that before, and I was not aware. But I think they have to put those warnings on everything now as a safety measure and accounted liability issues. So there we go. So I would just be careful when you're dealing with any of this stuff, just to be careful you don't get these plumes of debris coming out from the bag. So I'm just gonna seal that back up. It's not done that well. And here's my 1 part of water. We'll see if this works. There we go. And my spoon, it's gonna mix. Oh, I'm getting a cloud of this stuff. Get away. Okay. Oh yeah. So just be careful when you're mixing it up. There we go. I'm sure it's fine. It really is. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So this bag says that I have, well, actually I chose the one. They have different dry times. This one's an hour working time. I'm sure when I apply it to the wall, it'll dry a lot quicker because it's just a really thin coat that I'm putting on. But we'll find out. I have no idea how long this is going to take to dry on the walls. But you do want to make sure that it's dry before you sand. So there we go. There's my drywall compound. We mixed it ourselves. It looks pretty good. It's a relatively thick consistency. Not too thick. Not as thick as this stuff. So this will be a lot easier to work with. So I'm already pretty happy with the outcome of this. I can see how this will work well. We're back over at our wall where we're doing our filling of all the holes. I have my rag here. We have, prior to all this stuff, we've, pressed everything back into the wall. We've leveled things off just to get rid of all loose debris. We're going to continue that. We'll just use this dry rag, go over everything, just so it's relatively clean. And we're ready to use our putty knife and our home mixed drywall compound. If you're using the pre-made stuff, that's really cool too. It's the same thing. We're going to load up the putty brush and we are simply going to press in. You can do this a couple times just so you can kind of see how it's working for you. I like this. Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. That's beautiful. That, you know what, this works brilliantly. Wow. I have not had such an easy time before. I highly recommend this so far. Wow. Okay, so what I don't want to do is cover up those holes. I'm probably going to have a hard time seeing the holes that I want to keep, so I've taken pictures of where the artwork hangs, so that shouldn't be a problem. Back to this. That's not bad. You might have to do a second coat, and that's okay. I kind of see a little divot here that I can't quite get with the first coat, so we'll wait for this to dry, and then we'll go back over and do a really thin thing back over it. It's not a big deal. I see three over here that need to be filled. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it. Great. So same thing. There we go. You'll get the hang of using a putty knife if you've never used it before. It's super simple. I mean, I'm not even really watching what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. So there we go. That's great. Wow. What awesome stuff. Great. Oh, I see a little tiny hole here. You just use a tiny bit. And the beauty with this stuff is the consistency I'm noticing. Usually when it's really, really thick, the store-bought, like the pre-made stuff, you get a lot of product everywhere else that you don't want. So it requires more sanding. So far, so good. Well, I think that's about it. I have more over here. There's so much damage here. So there's more. I don't know. Okay. Well, actually you can see this stuff too. So I'm just going to continue to fill these holes. Oops. There we go. You might have to go over it a few times just to really press it into the wall. I think that's important. You really want to make sure it's getting in there. So when you do if you do need to do a second coat, you're just doing a really, really quick skim over it. These are pretty large holes. Of course, you won't have to do that with little tiny marks such as these ones, which I'm not filling. But you know, for the little ones, you won't need to do that a second coat. Oops, I just blopped that onto the heater. It's okay. That's what the rag is for. There we go. So, yeah, that's not bad. Just scrape all that off. We're gonna sand this all away later. And can you see this? Yes, you can. Perfect. There we go. La la la. Pressing this into the wall. This one will require a second coat. There we go. Excellent. So I'm going to continue doing this. I think this demonstrates well enough for how easy this really is. You can do it. I'm going to wait for this to dry. I'll let you know how long it takes. I'm going to try to take note of the time here. Should only take like 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. So I've ran around the entire apartment and I've filled all of the holes, as you can see on that back wall there. There's so much. There were so many holes to fill. It was insane. And I will have to do a second coat on some of it, but I'll have to do it a little bit later because I'm in a bit of a time crunch and I do have to leave here to go for an audition pretty soon. But I have enough time to show you something I find quite useful as a tip. This is the area that I was working in earlier. So these are examples of some partially dried ones. Of course, I went and I tried to show you how to do this on an exterior wall. And of course, the exterior wall is going to be much colder than the interior walls. I didn't think ahead that far. Of course, it makes sense, but that's just planning that I can't plan that far, or I can't think that smartly. So that's not a word, is it? Smartly? Probably not. Anyway, I do have a little tiny bit of putty that I mixed up just to show you a couple examples here. So this one, those two, yeah. So these two holes here, they're slightly larger as well, but they are completely dry. What happens is it does shrink as it dries, so this does require a second coat, as will the other ones, but they're not completely dry yet, and I don't want to apply this putty to those ones yet because they're not dry. If I do that, they're not going to be completely flush, so I just have to wait. I have to wait a little bit longer, and I don't have time. I can certainly come back later on this early evening. It'll be dark, and yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to show you second coat. These ones are ready, so pretend like I'm just doing the whole wall. That's the second coat, and it's totally smooth. Like this will dry beautifully, and I'll have a completely smooth finish ready for paint. So what I will do, because I do have a little bit of time left here, I'm going to set up over here on this wall, which is completely dry, and I'm going to show you how to sand with that little wet sanding sponge, and then how to clean the wall, just so you get an idea of the rest of the wall preparation. So I'm going to set this up and get busy here. So we're back and we're ready to just very lightly sand with our 150 grit up to 220 grit finishing sanding sponge. You just have to soak it lightly. So I have a little mister. We spray the cats when they're bad with this as well. We go like that, just a little bit. You don't have to make it super wet. You don't have to oversaturate that. Just go over your patches here. Can't really see that one, can you? Oh, there's one. Just like that. pretty light. Yeah, I'm not really pressing that hard. I'm going over it way more than I need to. You can figure out how much you want to do. Here's another one. There's so many of them. Okay, I'm gonna put this over here so you can see. Just turn that up a little bit so it's a little bit brighter. Okay, excellent. So I'm back over here, mist to mist. I'm going over all of them. Yeah. Super easy. You can see that? No. Alright. Looking pretty good. Look at the ones up high here. Ow! My elbow. Okay. Anyway, I also have, I'm out of breath. I have the vacuum out too. So this is a great opportunity before you wash the walls to just get any of the maybe loose drywall debris that fell off and you didn't clean up at that time and it's dried into little bits. It won't harm your vacuum. It's not enough to do any damage. This go like that. You can clean up that. Beautiful. So if you do that ahead of time, it'll be a little bit less for your bowl of water to handle. You don't have to dirty the water up that quickly with stuff that you can take care of with the vacuum. I've got my bowl of water that has just a tiny bit of dish detergent in it because it's going to cut the grease. And you don't have to like make the rag super wet. It's probably good. Just squish it out. Okay, and then you're just washing the wall. Like it's really nice. It feels good. This is making my arm feel pretty good. When you get to this stage, you know that the end is near for the wall prep. Once this is done, you're good to paint if you want. You gotta wait for this to dry, of course. This is why I save a day for this. So I'm not gonna be painting until tomorrow. So if you did this and you're washing the walls and stuff, it's just taking off the rest of that residue that you didn't sand off. A little tiny bit left behind is actually okay too. It doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that this is dry before if you use tape. I'm not going to be using tape. I'll show you how to edge the walls tomorrow and cut the trim in and the door trim. We're painting doors, everything. We're doing it all. You want to make sure it's dry, and why I like to do it the day before is because if you do use tape and you put the tape down, if it's not like bone dry, the tape will just come right off. So I'm just going to continue washing the walls and the trim because we're painting that too. Yes, it's going to be black. Oh, hello, kitten. No washer for you. Anyway, you don't need to watch me do this. I need to finish sanding up here and then actually do a proper job after, but you get the idea. So washing walls, super crucial step. Yes, it is a lot of work to smooth the walls down and to remove everything and patch holes up and wash the walls. But if you don't do this step and you just won't be happy with the finished result of painting. And if you're investing the money into the paint and you're putting all the effort into painting it yourself, you really want to save a day just for all of this and it'll pay off in the long run. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know I went on forever, and it's a very long video, but I hope that it helped you in some way in your life. Maybe you can fix the damage on the walls, because if you can't fix the damage in your life, at least you can fix the damage on the walls. And that is the best advice that I can give you right now. I have a cat on my lap, so that's why I'm sitting like this. Hey Jack, look at you. Look at you, handsome guy. So there was no flashing on the walls. The masks are right back to where I had them originally. I was able to find all the holes that were there to start that I didn't cover up. I did cover up a few by accident, but I was able to just scrape off, and I could still see them. There was a little tiny little prick in the wall. The masks are back up. The flashing was not there. I highly recommend using the drywall compound that you mix up yourself versus the store-bought pre-mixed stuff, because you don't have to prime it like I talked about in the video. So it took about 20 minutes for the smaller holes to dry, and for the large ones where the wall anchors were, it did take about an hour for it to dry, just because I had pushed it into the wall and it was quite thick. I will post some pictures, tag them on the end of this video, so you can see that the walls actually look pretty good. Thanks again. Feel free to like the video or share it, or you can delete it from your memory like I will. Yeah. Anyway, thanks again, and maybe I'll see you again.